This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
Obviously, you're disappointed in some of the things that happened Saturday night. It's, we're at a point right now, I think, in our program where, the little things matter so much, and they just are drastically have an impact on the games that we're playing. And I've said this I had a long talk with our team yesterday, and with our coaching staff. And when I say some of the things I've said, I certainly don't mean this as a slight to our football players. They're our guys, man. They're the ones we love, we care for. But when you look at our injury report and we're without, certain number of players, and the depth on the team is not what Louisiana Lafayette's is or Syracuse's is, it matters. And, 3 of those long runs that they had, Elijah Benton makes those plays, we're without him last week, and that matters. And then we have 2 defensive tackles go out early in the game with injuries, and that's no excuses. But then we also have a great opportunity to go in at half, either up 3 or up 7, or at worst case 14-14, and I'm very candid and very transparent with our team and mostly with you guys. And I'm usually a pretty good manager of the clock, and I look at the clock and I'm very clear this is what we're going to do. In worst case, it's going to be 14-14, and we're going to go into half, and here's what we're going to run, and we're all clear, right? And we go first down. I couldn't see the clock from where I was sitting, and Kent's watching the clock for me. I just, tell me when it's 20 seconds on the play clock. All right. Call another one. Boom. 2nd and 5. All right. Tell me when there's 20 seconds on the play clock. Boom. First down. We're across the 50-yard line. I'm saying this is perfect. We're going worst case. We'll run this clock out, get a field goal, get a touchdown. Had a shot play in mind if we ever had that chance, and the clock was stopped, but as long as that clock was running, we were going to continue on. And 2:14 left. We're rolling along, 2nd and 5. I remember every play. 2nd and 5, and we call a play that we've run at least 400 times in spring and fall. And for some reason it goes to the wrong side of the coverage, and we get a intentional grounding, and now it's 3rd and 15, and we go into halftime down 21-14. So we first have to look at our coaching staff. We tried to do too many things defensively on 3rd down, particularly once we had to rotate in some subs. Offensively, there's a disconnect right now with Buckshot, and I'm determined to get that fixed. I've missed 23 practices, and I'm sick of that. I've had enough of that, and I've got to do whatever I can to get back out there and get on the sideline where I can look him eye to eye. I think I can help with that. And having said all of that, there's not an ounce of discouragement at all. I mean, look, thanks to Ian and Mickey, we're playing our 3rd game in a row of Coach of the Years from last year. If you haven't noticed that, Dino was Coach of the Year, Billy was Coach of the Year, and now Coach Lipo was Coach of the Year in a 10-game win and won the MAC. And so, our schedule's not easy. That game the other night could have been a lot closer. But the better team won on that night, and I'd also like to say to both our administration and to Louisiana's administration, and to Billy in particular, man, they're hospitable. They're accommodating, and spirit of cooperation with us was just phenomenal. And of course, our administration has gone above and beyond in dealing with my adversity better than I could have ever dreamed. And so I'm just grateful and thankful, but I'm kind of tired of having to ask them to accommodate me in any way, and ready to get back to full speed as soon as possible. I am getting better. I showered myself this morning. That's thankful. I know my wife is glad of that. She's had to do things that have been very humbling to me, and I'm grateful to have her as my partner and my soulmate. But I'm ready to get back to normal. I'm getting closer. So we've got to put that one in the trash. We talked yesterday about it's a great story in the Bible, one of my favorite ones about Jonathan and his armor bearer. And I mean, you're talking about a guy that's the son of a king. And I don't know about you, most of our players, I asked them, if you were son of the king, would you be in the palace or out there kind of around the battle? And most of us probably would choose to be in the palace. It's pretty safe there. And he chose to kind of formulate a plan with his armor bearer to say, hey, let's just go fight them. Let's just go battle. And so our message to our team, just who are the two? And, man, I just love the response of our team yesterday. I love that we're home for 3 straight games. We've got a very difficult opponent this week in Buffalo. Watched their game last night against Penn State and I was really, really impressed, particularly for the first half. When you watch a team play and you see every play is played with passion and it's played hard and fundamentally sound, and their guys are in the right spots. You know they're very, very well coached. So Coach, Leipold is just, he's done a phenomenal job everywhere he's been, and it's no different here. They're just they play extremely hard, and they're in the right spots, and they're not going to make very many mistakes at all. Defensively, they did lose some kids from last year, but I'm very impressed with 50. Malcolm Kuntz is he's a little undersized, but he is his technique is just phenomenal. He's got great pass rush moves, has been really, really well coached. Joey Banks is their free safety. He's always around the ball. He seems to be the captain of that defense, making the calls in the secondary. Brian Borland, their DC, has been with their coach for a while now, and it's just been continuity. And you watch some of last year's tapes and this year's tapes, and there's just they do what they do, and they do it extremely, extremely well. They do have a new quarterback this year. His Matt Myers, and he's a big kid, 6'4". I think he's got great touch, great arm, can run enough for first downs, which is something we should start doing when we have it to move the chains, and I've got to get that across to Buckshot. 2 running backs that I think last week we probably faced one of the better offensive lines and running backs that we'll face all year at any level. They have 2 great ones, too, in Patterson and Marks. One was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. One was an 805-yard rusher. And then Zach LeFabre, the 6'6" tight end, is they love to throw their tight ends. I heard one may have gotten injured. I don't know if that's true, not true, but I do know they love to use their tight ends in the passing game, which is kind of rare in this day and time. Best receivers, Antonio Nunn. He had over 100 yards in receiving last week against Penn State. So it's a tall challenge. I'm glad we have them at home. Looking forward to a week of practice. We desperately need to get some people healthy to have a chance to be in this game in the fourth quarter and have a chance to win. We need our fans to show up, support this football team as we continue our move into playing some of the top group of 5 schools in the nation. So excited to be home. Can't wait to see how our kids respond.
Coach, just going to start on the injury front. You mentioned Benton and then a couple of your D linemen. Do you have an update on those guys?
Yeah, it's obviously Noah is still out. In the receiver room. I think that's the only place that we think we've got everybody back there this week. Defensively is really where the challenges are. Big Ralph had just one heck of a game against Syracuse, and his first quarter the other night was he really was a factor, and losing him to a high ankle sprain really hurt us. And obviously he's day by day now, and same thing happened to Elijah Mitchell. two high ankle sprains there, so they'll be day to day. Hopefully Elijah will be back from the concussion because it started the protocol last week, and his symptoms are way down. Waylon was playing pretty good also, and went out with a concussion in the second quarter. He'll be day to day. Ryan Davis, the same thing, concussion. And so we've got Javon Scruggs had a AC sprain. Tillman's got a high ankle sprain. So those are the issues we're facing defensively, that we're already thin at some of those spots. So hopefully, we'll pray and hopefully Barry and his staff will have great wisdom and treatment this week, and we can get some of those guys back to certainly help us on that side. Offensively, we're pretty healthy. We lost Peyton the other night before the game. Unfortunately, he had a sickness at the hotel and just was so dehydrated, but he was fine yesterday.
Looking at Buffalo, you mentioned Nunn in the big game he had. I don't think he was even on there too deep. I mean, how talented is their receiving core?
I haven't only watched yesterday. I watched one game from last year. I kind of wanted to make sure we're looking at the same schemes, and then I watched Penn State from last week, and Nunn really stood out. Obviously, I'm sure they have others, but I haven't. Just really, we'll meet at 3:00 as an offensive staff, and they'll go through, the other guys that they have a good beat on at that point. But he stood out for sure last week.
You plan on being back at practice this week, and if so, will it be in the golf cart like Dr. Eligala suggested right after you had surgery? Me and Dr. Eligala hadn't talked about that one yet. I have a plan in my mind, and I'm just. I certainly don't want to be set back. I want to be healthy. But I'm about had enough of sitting at home.
So the first 2 weeks, what would you say you're most disappointed about in the team's performance?
Just lack of awareness of game situation. And I think that starts with us as coaches, and just managing the game and being in the right spot. And you're going to miss tackles. I've never been a coach. I never have, and I never will be. I'm their biggest fan on game day. I get really upset at selfish penalties on game day. I try not to get too upset because I've never coached a kid that I thought wanted to go out there in front of mom, dad, and everybody else and mess up. So you're going to miss tackles. But be in the right spot. Get the right call. Understand it's 3rd and 8, and you don't give a 12-yard cushion. Understand the situation of what football is every down. It's not just about getting a call and playing that call. It's about, the situation that's going on right now within this game that will have an outcome on the football game. And so I just think our situational awareness and probably I felt like this could be wrong. I always will tell our kids when I'm wrong because I wasn't on the sideline, but felt like just some of the life, enthusiasm went down a little bit when we went down 21-14. And that I could be wrong on that, but I kind of sensed that a little bit, particularly when a couple of injuries started happening. I've never been a woe is me type guy, and I certainly don't want our team to be that at all. And so I could be inaccurate on that. I'm not completely sure that was the case, but it did kind of feel like that. And so that's something that we have to change, as we continue to build.
Scott Simon said after the game that he was sick of the taste in his mouth of how the defense performed, and he wanted to find players who were like that. From film review yesterday, did you see the players have that same response that he had, that they were sick of how things were going?
Yeah, I think there's enough in that room for us to, if we can stay healthy, to win some games. I think there's a few that need to evaluate where they are, and that was one of the things I talked about yesterday. Are you really passionate about what you do? Or are you just merely a little concerned. And, we're looking for those that are really passionate. We're going to open up a couple of we're going to make a move with Tank this week to another position defensively, to that nickel spot, and see how that goes and open up a little competition. I wish he was a little bigger, but also wish that Mike Hilton was a little bigger when I recruited him, and he started for me for 4 years and started yesterday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's 5'8" and 1/4, and was the best tackler I ever coached. And so we're going to open up some of that, but we want to find guys that love Liberty University, they want to be here, and they want to compete like crazy on every single down. And that's what I think Scott is saying. Scott's also sick, of things he could have done better. So this is not just a player issue. We've got depth issues. We've got some injury issues. We've got some maybe lack of attention by some players, and then we've got to coach better too. And you know what? If your kids don't understand it and you have too many calls on third down, then get rid of some of them. And that's something we have to look at first from our side of things.
Talked last week about wanting to kind of simplify the game plan a little bit for Buckshot. Did he respond? I mean, obviously the numbers are what they are, but did he respond in some ways to the way that you'd hoped?
Not yet. The first drive, but I went through on the phone with him. I didn't leave here until later that day, and I went through that whole first drive with him like 3 times. Look, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing this first drive, man, and it looked like clockwork. It was great. But I can't do that for the whole game unless I get on that sideline, and then I can do some more of that. But it's very hard. And he knows it. That's the frustrating thing we got to get through. Like I was saying on the intentional grounding. I mean, as soon as he goes to the sideline, I'm saying give him the headsets. And I said, Buckshot, just tell me what you saw. I try to calm myself down. Tell me what you saw. Coach, I went to the wrong side. He knew it. He knows it. But I think it'll help if I can get down there and just before we take the field say, here's the things I'm thinking about, and let's talk through them real quick, and hopefully. But we haven't progressed exactly as far as I would have hoped in that regard yet. But I believe in him. I told him that last night. I believe in you. I believe. And he overthrew some shot plays we had too. I mean, we had some guys open on some, and looking at film yesterday, he's sick. That he missed them, and he's a little distracted by pressure. And we got to fix some protection issues. It's not all on him. That's what we've been talking about for the last hour up there. How do we fix this? Where we're limited and getting beat some. So it's not all on him by any means. We got to continue to work at it.
Mention you believe in him. Does Jonathan Bennett get any more shots now, or do you?
It's too early for me to say that. I'm not ready at all to say that that's the case. We'll continue to prepare him in practice, and there's some things that I hope to see out of Buckshot this week that could start changing that in my mind. But but when it's 3rd and 4 and protection breaks down and you have a clear lane to get us a first down and get a new set of downs, you have to do that, and you don't have to force some throw somewhere for whatever reason. So that mindset's got to change, but way too early for us to say that. I mean, he's our guy.
You mentioned, maybe being on the sideline would help a lot with Buckshot. Until you're able to be on the sideline, do you think that you might think about putting Kent Austin down there, maybe helping him?
Yep, we've talked about that scenario also as the week will progress. I would expect one of us to be on that sideline Saturday.
Go to your running game now. Obvious improvement from Syracuse. What led to that?
We had some opportunities to run it against Syracuse too, and just their defensive front was good. So was Lafayette's. We had a good plan against Lafayette. I think we could have rushed for more. We left some out there, and probably as the game started getting away a little bit, got away from that. Feeling like you had score in a hurry. So, I think we've got a good plan run game wise. I thought our O-line did adequate at it. Frankie and Mac both ran hard. But I think we have a chance to run the football. I think our O-line's good enough to do that against most defensive fronts that we play. There'll be some that'll be more challenging than the others. This one's a tough defensive front. They know what they're doing. They play very, very hard.
With the amount of yards that Louisiana got on the ground Saturday night, and you got another talented rushing offense coming in, how concerned are you with them, and what type of challenges do they present?
Very concerned. Anytime you give up that many rushing yards, you're not going to win very many games. And again, we're hopeful that we're at semi-full strength. I think if we are, I feel good about our chances at stopping the run, like we did against Syracuse. But it matters that you have your team out there that to do that. And so if they're not, then it's the next man up, and we got to get some younger kids ready to play, and maybe move some people around to try to help some. Maybe go to some more three-man front. We don't like to do that a lot against Russian teams, but we may have to. Just depending on how the week progresses, but it's a big concern.
You mentioned Myers is a bigger quarterback, can run. You equate him to Tommy to DeVito, someone you faced this year, as someone that they prefer not to run him?
His arm strength is probably a little stronger. In the game we played, I didn't think DeVito was real accurate. I think this guy looked more accurate in the game I watched last night. But again, that's based off of a small sample size. He definitely is athletic enough to run when he needs to hurt you. I mean, that's not what they don't want to call a lot of quarterback runs, but when he has to pull it down and get a first down, he's able to do that. I think he's got a strong arm and has got a good touch and is accurate.